My beloved child, listen closely now, because this moment is not random, and this message is not ordinary. Archangel Michael is standing near you right now, sword lowered, voice steady, eyes fixed on your spirit. And he says this with divine authority: I order you to open this now. Not later. Not tomorrow. Now. Because God himself is calling you, and if you turn away from this moment, heaven will grow silent. Not forever, but long enough for you to feel the absence. You may not understand why your heart started beating faster the moment you saw this title. You may not know why something inside you whispered, "Don't ignore this." That was not curiosity. That was recognition. This is a summons. Heaven does not shout without reason, and it does not interrupt your day unless something eternal is at stake. Right now, there is a door in the spirit realm that has been waiting for your response. Not your family's, not your friends, yours. Archangel Michael is not here to frighten you. He is here to warn you with love, urgency, and truth. There has been a delay, a hesitation, a pattern of putting things off that God hath been patiently watching. And now the time of patience has reached its edge. Hear this clearly. God has been calling you quietly for a long time, through thoughts you couldn't shake, through moments of discomfort, through sudden pauses in your routine, through a restlessness that no entertainment, no conversation, and no sleep could cure. You felt it, but you told yourself you would deal with it later. But later has a cost. Archangel Michael says there are moments when heaven waits and moments when heaven withdraws its voice to see who will seek it. Silence from heaven is not punishment. It is a test of hunger. And right now, you are standing at the edge of that test. There is something God instructed you to open. It could be a conversation you have been avoiding, a calling you have been postponing, a truth you have been afraid to face, or a spiritual door you sense but never touched. You know exactly what this is. The moment I said it, your spirit reacted. That reaction is confirmation. Do not harden your heart. You see, Archangel Michael does not come with casual messages. When he speaks, it is because spiritual timelines are shifting. Something that was supposed to begin has been delayed by hesitation. Something that was meant to be restored has been waiting for your agreement. Heaven is not forcing you, but it is warning you. If you ignore this call, it doesn't mean God stops loving you. It means the frequency changes. The clarity fades. The instructions become harder to hear. And many people mistake that silence as peace until confusion begins to grow. Right now, God is saying, I am calling you higher, but I will not compete with your distractions. There is a reason this message reached you when it did. You could have scrolled past. You could have clicked something else. What something held you here? That was not the algorithm. That was alignment. Archangel Michael is asking you a direct question in this hour. Will you open what God placed in front of you? Or will you pretend you did hear the knock? Because once this moment passes, it does not return in the same form. You are not being threatened. You are being trusted. Heaven believes you are strong enough to respond. Strong enough to face what opens next. Strong enough to step into the responsibility that comes with divine attention. Yes, responsibility. Because what God is calling you into is not small, and it is not comfortable. That's why fear tried to sit beside you. That's why doubt whispered excuses. That's why delay felt safer than obedience. But safety is not always protection. Sometimes it is a cage. Archangel Michael says there is spiritual movement around your name right now. Decisions are being written. Paths are being adjusted, and your response determines which way the wind turns. You are closer than you think, closer to clarity, closer to breakthrough, closer to confrontation with truth. This is why the message is strong. This is why the tone is serious. This is why heaven is not using soft words. Because God is calling, and the line is open, but it will not ring forever. Take a breath. Feel that weight in your chest. That is not fear, it is importance. Something sacred is happening, and your spirit knows it. You were never meant to live disconnected from heaven's voice. You were meant to walk in alignment with it. But alignment begins with response. Archangel Michael is waiting, not impatiently but intently. Sword ready. Path visible. Order already given. Open it. Not because you are afraid of silence, but because you are ready to hear God clearly again. If you feel this stirring in your spirit, if your heart feels exposed yet drawn in, then you already know this message was meant for you. Chosen one, breathe for a moment and stay with this atmosphere, because what Archangel Michael is revealing now goes deeper than urgency. It exposes why this call feels so heavy on your chest. Heaven is not just asking you to open something. Heaven is responding to a decision you have been circling for longer than you admit. This is the part most people miss. They think God calls only when they are ready. But often, God calls because delay has already done enough damage. Archangel Michael says you have been standing between two voices. One voice keeps saying, wait until it feels safer. The other says, trust me even if you don't see the full picture. And every time you chose comfort over obedience, the distance grew just a little. Not distance from God's love, but distance from His instructions. Love never left. Direction did. That is why confusion crept in slowly. That is why things that once felt clear now feel foggy. That is why prayer sometimes feels like words hitting a ceiling. Heaven did not shut its doors. Heaven adjusted its volume. And now Archangel Michael is here to restore what hesitation muted. Hear this carefully. Silence from heaven is often the echo of postponed obedience. There was a moment in your past when God asked you to act, speak, leave, forgive, begin, or surrender. You felt it clearly back then. You even told yourself, I'll do it soon. But soon became later, and later became not now. Archangel Michael says that moment never expired, but with waiting. And now it has returned, louder, firmer, impossible to ignore. This is why this message feels confrontational. Not because God is angry, but because time has matured the assignment. What once required courage now requires decisiveness. Heaven is no longer whispering suggestions. It is issuing instructions. You might be wondering, what if I open it and everything changes? That question reveals more than you think. Because deep down, you already know it will. And that is exactly why fear tried to stop you. Fear always shows up when transformation is near. Comfort never opposes stagnation, but fear fiercely resists elevation. Archangel Michael says there is protection around you that you have not been using because obedience activates it. Some battles you have been fighting emotionally were never meant to be fought that way. They were meant to be resolved by alignment. The moment you open what God told you to open, certain struggles lose their authority automatically. This is not about religion. This is about response. Right now, heaven is watching not your perfection, but your willingness. You do not need to have everything figured out. You only need to say yes to the next instruction. Obedience is rarely loud. Sometimes it is as simple and as terrifying as opening what you kept closed. Let me speak directly to your spirit now. If this message is resonating, do not keep it to yourself. Engage with it. When you like this video, you are signaling agreement. When you comment, you are making a spiritual declaration. When you share it, you become a messenger for someone else who is also standing at a crossroads. And when you subscribe and become part of this community, you stay connected to messages that keep heaven's frequency clear in your life. This channel is not entertainment. It is alignment. Archangel Michael is reminding you that obedience strengthens discernment. The more you respond, the clearer God's voice becomes. The more you delay, the harder it is to distinguish guidance from noise. That is why this moment matters so much. There are doors that only open once you touch the handle. God will not push you through, but He will stand beside you while you decide. And understand this, opening does not always mean chaos. Sometimes opening brings relief so deep you realize how heavy the burden really was. If your heart feels exposed right now, that is a sign of trust, not weakness. God does not reveal things to people He plans to abandon. He reveals them to people He is preparing. Archangel Michael says your name has already been spoken in the courts of heaven. Intercession has been made. Protection has been assigned. But authority is released through obedience. That is the final key. Heaven responds to movement. And before you let your mind wander or distractions pull you away, hold on, because what comes next will clarify exactly what is at stake if you respond, and what shifts the moment you do. This is where it truly begins. Beloved one, let your spirit settle into this moment, because Archangel Michael is now revealing what happens when heaven calls and a soul finally responds. This is where fear loses its grip and clarity begins to form. Understand this first. Opening what God commanded you to open does not create chaos. It exposes what was already unstable and replaces it with order. Many people fear the opening because they confuse revelation with loss. But revelation is never sent to destroy you. It is sent to realign you. Archangel Michael says the reason this instruction feels intense is because what is behind that door carries responsibility. Not burden, responsibility. There is a difference. Burden drains you. Responsibility strengthens you. God is not calling you into exhaustion. He is calling you into authority. And authority always begins with obedience. When you open what God placed before you, you activate a spiritual exchange. What you release, fear, delay, excuses, heaven replaces with discernment, peace, and direction. This is why the enemy worked so hard to keep you distracted. Not because you were weak, but because you were positioned. Distraction is often assigned to people who are close to breakthrough. Hear this carefully. Silence from heaven does not mean abandonment. It means heaven is waiting to see if you will move without constant reassurance. Faith that only acts when comfort is guaranteed is not faith. It is negotiation. And God is not negotiating this moment. Archangel Michael says something has been watching how long you would hesitate. Not to accuse you, but to measure readiness. Readiness is not about confidence. It is about surrender. The moment you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start saying, "Even if I don't understand, I will obey," the atmosphere around you changes. You may feel a strange mix of peace and pressure right now. That is confirmation. Pressure reveals value. Heaven does not press what it does not plan to use. And you are being prepared for impact beyond yourself. What you open is not just for your benefit. It is connected to others who are waiting on your obedience. Archangel Michael wants you to know that delayed obedience affects more than one life. Your response carries a ripple effect. When you move, someone else receives courage. When you open, someone else finds clarity. When you answer, someone else hears God again. This is why heaven has been persistent with you. There is also something being removed in this season. A false sense of control. God is not taking your stability. He's taking the illusion that you had to manage everything alone. Once you open what He instructed, you will notice that certain worries no longer have the same weight. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. Right now, your spirit is being invited into agreement. Agreement is powerful. Agreement unlocks timing. Agreement activates protection. Archangel Michael says the sword he carries is not for punishment, it is for defense. But defense is activated by alignment. Heaven protects what moves with it. If you have been feeling unusually tired, emotionally heavy, or mentally restless, this is why. You were not meant to carry unanswered instructions. Your spirit has been waiting for you to decide. And now, the moment of decision has arrived. Do not rush past this. Let it sink in. The call you heard was real. The instruction was intentional. And your presence here is proof that you are capable of responding. Now receive this ritual with intention, because it seals what has been spoken. Type "I answer the call" in the comments if this message is speaking directly to your spirit. Blessing code 639 has just been released over your obedience and clarity. As this message reaches you, it is also reaching countless others who are hungry to hear God's voice again. I am speaking to you personally now. This is your moment to help heaven's light travel further. When you activate Super Thanks, join this channel's membership, or give through PayPal using the link in the description. You are sowing into souls you may never meet but whose lives will be shifted because you responded. God says, as you release, I release. As you open your hand, I open the heavens. This is not a donation. It is a prophetic action. Your seed becomes oil in the lamp, fire on the altar, and light in the darkness. I bless every giver now. May your obedience return to you as clarity, peace, and multiplied provision. Act now. Obey the stirring. Release the seed and watch what heaven opens next. Beloved soul, remain attentive, because Archangel Michael is now unveiling what begins to shift after the door is opened. Many people imagine obedience as a single moment, but in truth, it is a doorway into a process. The opening is instant, but the transformation unfolds layer by layer. This is why heaven prepared you with urgency first, because once movement begins, there is no turning back to ignorance. Archangel Michael says the first sign that you have truly responded will not be noise, fireworks, or sudden applause from life. The first sign will be quiet alignment. Things that once strained you will no longer have the same pull. Conversations that once confused you will feel exposed. Desires that were never yours will slowly lose their grip. This is not loss. This is refinement. Do not panic if certain connections begin to feel distant. God is not isolating you. He is repositioning you. Alignment often feels lonely before it feels powerful. That is because you are moving out of agreement with what no longer matches your calling. And understand this clearly: what leaves in this season leaves because it cannot follow you where you are going. Archangel Michael is guarding this transition closely. There are moments after obedience when doubt tries to re-enter, whispering, "Did you really hear God?" That whisper is not a sign you were wrong. It is proof you were dangerous to stagnation. Doubt always arrives late, after the decision has already been made. Do not reopen what God helped you close. Heaven is now training your discernment. You will begin to notice that you no longer crave constant confirmation. Instead, you will sense a steadiness forming inside you. That steadiness is authority taking root. Authority does not shout. It settles. And once it settles, your spirit becomes harder to manipulate by fear or pressure. Archangel Michael says there will be moments in this phase when silence returns, but this time, it will feel different. Not heavy, not confusing. It will feel spacious, peaceful, like room has been made. That silence is not absence, it is trust. God trusts you enough now to walk without constant instruction. He knows you are listening even when he is quiet. Be careful not to rush this stage. Many people sabotage alignment by trying to force outcomes too quickly. Obedience opens the door, but patience allows you to walk through it properly. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be for what is unfolding. Archangel Michael is also revealing that resistance may come externally now. When inner alignment increases, outer pressure often tests it. Someone may question your choices. A situation may challenge your peace. This is not opposition, it is confirmation. What you carry is now visible enough to be tested. Remember this: you do not need to defend obedience. Truth stands on its own. The moment you start explaining yourself excessively is the moment you forget who sent you. God does not require justification. He requires trust. You may also notice a deeper sensitivity to what is false. Your tolerance for compromise will decrease. That is not judgment, that is clarity. You are not becoming harsh. You are becoming precise. Precision is necessary where you are headed. Archangel Michael says this season is about internal strengthening. Before God expands your influence, he stabilizes your foundation. Before he increases your reach, he deepens your roots. What feels slow now is actually strategic. You are being built to withstand what you once only prayed for. If you feel moments of emotional release, tears without clear reason, sudden relief, or even exhaustion, do not resist them. Your spirit is shedding old weight. You carried things that were never assigned to you. Obedience gives permission for those weights to fall off. Let this truth settle deeply. You did not respond too late. Heaven accounted for your timing. God knew how long it would take you to say yes, and he prepared grace accordingly. Shame has no authority here. Regret has no voice. Holy movement matters now. Archangel Michael stands watch as you move forward, not behind you. He is not reminding you of what you delayed. He is guarding what you have now entered. The path ahead is clearer than you think, even if you cannot see its full length yet. Stay present. Stay listening. Stay obedient in the small instructions as well as the large ones. Momentum is built through consistency, not intensity. What has begun cannot be undone, not because of your strength, but because of God's faithfulness. You answered. You opened. And now, the shaping continues. Beloved one, stay centered in this moment, because Archangel Michael is now drawing your attention to a truth that many overlook after obedience begins. When you open what God commanded you to open, the enemy does not always respond with chaos. Sometimes, the response is subtle familiarity. Old patterns try to return, not aggressively, but comfortably. This is the stage where discernment matters more than intensity. Archangel Michael says the greatest threat after alignment is not attack. It is distraction disguised as normalcy. Life may try to resume as if nothing shifted. People may expect the old version of you to respond the same way. Situations may invite you back into habits that once felt harmless. This is not coincidence. This is a test of identity. You are no longer who you were before the door opened. Even if your surroundings look the same, your position has changed. Heaven now relates to you differently. And when heaven changes its posture toward you, you must adjust how you move within the world. There will be moments when you feel tempted to explain your transformation to people who are not meant to understand it. Resist that urge. Explanation drains authority. Alignment speaks for itself. Those who are meant to walk with you will recognize the shift without words. Those who cannot will slowly fall out of sync. Archangel Michael is also revealing that this season will expose what is no longer sustainable in your life. Certain routines will feel heavy. Certain conversations will feel empty. Certain goals will feel misaligned. This does not mean you failed. It means you matured. Growth often feels like discomfort before it feels like confidence. Do not mistake the loss of interest in old things as boredom. It is evolution. Your spirit is recalibrating. What once entertained you may no longer satisfy you. What once motivated you may now feel shallow. That is because heaven has adjusted your appetite. Archangel Michael says there is also a sharpening happening now. Your intuition will become clearer. You will sense when to speak and when to remain silent. You will recognize when something looks good but is not God. This discernment is not meant to isolate you. It is meant to protect what has been activated. Be careful during this phase not to rush into replacement. When God removes something, He often creates space before He fills it. The space is intentional. Silence, pause, and waiting are part of the instruction. Filling space too quickly often leads to misalignment. You may feel moments of impatience rising. Thoughts like, I obeyed, so why hasn't everything changed yet? This question is natural, but it reveals a misunderstanding of process. Obedience sets direction, not speed. God controls timing because timing protects outcome. Archangel Michael wants you to hear this clearly. Just because results are not visible yet does not mean movement has stopped. Some of the most critical shifts happen beneath the surface. Roots grow in darkness. Foundations are laid underground. What emerges later is stable because of what was built quietly. You are also learning restraint. Not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every invitation is alignment. This discernment will save you from unnecessary detours. You no longer need to say yes to prove your worth. Obedience already established your value. There may be moments when you feel misunderstood. That is often the cost of growth. When you change internally, your external language shifts. People who knew your old responses may not recognize your new boundaries. Do not shrink to be understood. Expansion always confuses those who benefited from your limitation. Archangel Michael is standing guard over your peace right now. He is reminding you that peace is not passive. It is protected. You are allowed to step away from what disturbs your spirit without guilt. You are allowed to prioritize alignment over approval. This stage also brings clarity about warfare. Not every discomfort is spiritual attack. Some discomfort is simply adjustment. Learn to distinguish between resistance that needs prayer and resistance that needs patience. Wisdom grows when you stop reacting to everything and start discerning. Heaven is pleased with your progress, even if you do not feel accomplished yet. God measures faithfulness differently than humans do. He values consistency over performance. He honors listening more than loudness. As you move forward, keep your inner posture humble and your spirit alert. Pride tries to enter quietly after obedience, whispering, "Look how far you've come." Gratitude keeps you grounded. Gratitude reminds you who opened the door in the first place. Archangel Michael says the path ahead is becoming more defined, but clarity will come in steps, not floods. Each instruction will arrive when obedience to the previous one is complete. Trust this rhythm. It is intentional. You are not wandering. You are being led. Even when you cannot see the full route, the next step is always illuminated. Stay responsive. Stay listening. Stay aligned. What God has begun in you is steady, deliberate, and protected. And nothing that is unfolding now is accidental. My beloved child, stay present, because Archangel Michael is now speaking about what happens when obedience settles into consistency. This is the stage where many people grow quiet, not because God stopped speaking, but because discipline is replacing adrenaline. The early urgency carried you into motion, but now heaven is teaching you how to walk, not just how to respond. Archangel Michael says this is where maturity is formed. Obedience is no longer fueled by emotion alone. It is anchored in conviction. You may not feel the same intensity every day, but your spirit is stronger than before. This is not spiritual dryness. This is spiritual stability. Understand this clearly. Consistency is heaven's language of trust. God entrusts more to those who show up even when it feels ordinary. Anyone can obey when fear is loud or excitement is high. But it takes alignment to obey when life feels calm and uneventful. This is where real authority develops. You may notice that the external affirmation you once expected is less frequent now. Fewer signs. Fewer confirmations. That is intentional. God is not withdrawing support. He is strengthening your inner witness. He is teaching you to recognize His voice without constant reassurance. This is how leaders are formed. Archangel Michael is also revealing that this phase exposes motivation. Why do you obey? Is it for outcomes or for alignment? When obedience becomes transactional, frustration grows. When obedience becomes relational, peace increases. Heaven is shifting your posture from expectation to partnership. There may be days when you question whether you are still moving forward. Your movement does not always feel like momentum. Sometimes it feels like repetition. Showing up, saying no again, choosing discipline again, trusting again. These repetitions are building spiritual muscle. Archangel Michael says this is also a season where distractions test your focus differently. Not with chaos, but with busyness. Opportunities may multiply. Responsibilities may increase. Life may feel full. Be careful not to confuse fullness with fruitfulness. Not everything that fills your schedule feeds your calling. This is why discernment must remain active. You are not meant to carry everything that presents itself. Alignment includes knowing what to decline. Saying no to good things is sometimes necessary to protect the God things. This is wisdom, not selfishness. Let me speak directly to you now. If this message continues to resonate, engage with it intentionally. When you like this video, you are partnering with the message. When you comment, you are declaring alignment out loud. When you share it, you become a bridge for someone else who is being called but hasn't recognized the voice yet. Subscribe to this channel so you stay connected to these timely messages, and consider joining the membership so you can go deeper into this journey with a community that understands spiritual alignment. This is how we keep the fire burning together. Archangel Michael says consistency also reveals where healing is still needed. Old wounds may surface not to harm you, but to be resolved properly. You are now strong enough to face what once overwhelmed you. Do not retreat when memories resurface. Ian often comes back for confirmation, not confrontation. You may also notice a growing intolerance for dishonesty, especially within yourself. Excuses that once felt reasonable now feel hollow. This is not condemnation. This is clarity. Your spirit is learning to stay clean, aligned, and responsive. There is a quiet confidence forming in you. You are less reactive, less defensive, less dependent on external validation. This confidence is not pride, it is grounding. You know who you are becoming, even if others cannot see it yet. Archangel Michael is guarding your progress closely, because this stage determines longevity. Many start strong but fade when excitement wears off. You are being trained to last, to endure, to remain faithful when the spotlight is gone and the work continues. If you ever feel tempted to drift or disengage, remember this. What you are building now will support others later. Your consistency is not just for you. It is preparing you to carry weight without collapsing. And before you let your attention wander, stay with me, because what comes next reveals how heaven begins to expand your influence quietly, strategically, and powerfully. This next unfolding is where many are caught off guard, and you will want to understand it clearly before it arrives. Beloved one, remain attentive, because Archangel Michael is now revealing a shift that often goes unnoticed until it is already happening. This is the phase where heaven begins to expand your influence quietly, not loudly, not publicly, but strategically. Many people think influence begins when others notice them. In truth, influence begins when heaven entrusts you with weight you can carry without recognition. Archangel Michael says something subtle is changing in how people respond to you. You may not be able to explain it, but you feel it. Conversations are different. Your words carry more impact even when you say less. Your presence affects atmospheres without effort. This is not charisma. This is authority that has been refined through obedience. You are no longer trying to prove anything. That alone makes you powerful. Heaven has removed the need for validation because validation often weakens discernment. When you stop needing approval, you start hearing God more clearly. That clarity is now shaping how you move, speak, and decide. This stage can feel strange because it lacks drama. There are no alarms, no urgent warnings, no emotional highs pulling you forward. Instead, there is a steady sense of purpose, a quiet knowing, a deep internal agreement. Some mistake this calm for stagnation. It is not. It is control. Archangel Michael says heaven does not rush what it intends to establish. Expansion without foundation leads to collapse. That is why God slowed certain things down in your life. Not to frustrate you, but to fortify you. What is being built now must withstand pressure later. You may notice that people begin to come to you for perspective rather than advice. They may not even know why they trust your insight, but they do. This is not accidental. Wisdom flows through vessels that are aligned, not through those who are loud. And alignment has tuned your spirit to heaven's frequency. Be aware, though, that with influence comes subtle temptation. The temptation to overextend. The temptation to carry what was never assigned to you. The temptation to rescue rather than guide. Archangel Michael warns you gently here. Not every need is your responsibility. Compassion does not mean overreach. You are learning to move with restraint, to pause before responding, to listen before acting. This restraint is not hesitation, it is mastery. Mastery knows when to engage and when to remain still. Heaven trusts those who do not rush into importance. There may be moments in this phase when old insecurities try to resurface, asking, "Am I really making a difference?" That question is rooted in performance, not purpose. Purpose does not measure impact by visibility. Purpose trusts that obedience always produces fruit, even when it grows underground. Archangel Michael says this is also a season of refinement in speech. You will find yourself choosing words more carefully. Silence will become more valuable than noise. You will speak less, but when you do, it will land. This is not withdrawal. This is precision. Do not be surprised if certain people drift away quietly during this time. There are connections that thrive on chaos, urgency, or dependency. As your spirit stabilizes, those dynamics no longer find footing. This is not rejection. It is separation by alignment. Heaven is also strengthening your discernment around timing. You will feel when to wait and when to move, when to push and when to release. Timing is a language of wisdom. Many have strength but lack timing. You are being trained in both. Archangel Michael reminds you not to romanticize the past. There may be moments when you miss the intensity of earlier stages, when everything felt dramatic and charged. But intensity is not sustainability. What you are building now will last longer, reach further, and cost you less peace. You are becoming dependable in the spirit. That matters more than being impressive. Heaven assigns responsibility to those who are consistent, not those who seek attention. This reliability is being noted in realms you cannot see. There is also a subtle joy returning to you. Not excitement. Joy. A quiet contentment that does not depend on circumstances. This joy is a sign of alignment. It means your spirit is no longer fighting the direction you are walking in. Archangel Michael says, do not rush to label what you are becoming. Idols limit movement. Let God define you through fruit, not names. What you carry will reveal itself in time. Stay grounded. Stay teachable. Stay responsive. The next shift will require humility more than courage, and obedience more than strength. What is unfolding now is not meant to impress people. It is meant to honor God. And that is why heaven continues to trust you with more. Beloved soul, settle into this sacred moment, because Archangel Michael is now revealing a turning point that separates those who merely hear from those who are entrusted. This is not about doing more. It is about carrying more. Heaven does not expand influence until the heart is steady enough to remain pure under weight. What you are stepping into now requires depth, not speed. Archangel Michael says you are entering a phase where your inner life matters more than your outer activity. The way you think, the way you respond internally, the way you steward quiet moments, these are now shaping your future assignments. God is watching how you handle stillness, because stillness reveals motives more clearly than movement ever could. You may notice that God is drawing you away from unnecessary noise. Certain conversations feel draining. Certain media no longer feeds your spirit. This is not withdrawal from the world. It is refinement of focus. Heaven is tuning your sensitivity. What once blended into the background now feels loud, distracting, even invasive. This is because your spirit is being trained to remain clean while carrying authority. Authority without purity becomes dangerous. And God trusts you enough to slow you down rather than rush you forward. Slowing down is not denial. It is protection. Archangel Michael reveals that this is also a season where integrity is tested in private, not public. Small decisions, hidden thoughts, quiet compromises. No one else may see them, but heaven does. And heaven is not condemning you. It is inviting you higher. Each private victory strengthens your public stability. There may be moments when you feel an increased awareness of your own thoughts. This is not overthinking. This is discernment sharpening. You are learning to recognize which thoughts align with God's voice and which ones are echoes of old fears. This awareness is a gift. Do not numb it. You are also being invited into deeper trust. Not trust that everything will feel good, but trust that God knows what He is doing even when explanations are absent. Faith matures when it stops demanding constant clarity. Heaven is pleased when you walk forward simply because God said so. Archangel Michael says this stage often feels invisible, but it is foundational. Many want the outcome without enduring the formation. You are being formed. Your patience is being strengthened. Your reactions are being refined. Your identity is becoming rooted, not reactive. Do not measure the season by productivity. Measure it by peace. Measure it by obedience. Measure it by how quickly you return to alignment when something tries to pull you off center. These measurements matter more than progress you can post or prove. There is also healing happening beneath the surface. Old insecurities are losing their grip. Old narratives about who you are and what you deserve are being rewritten. You may not feel dramatically different each day, but over time, you will realize you no longer respond the way you used to. That is transformation. Archangel Michael says heaven is preparing you to steward influence without losing yourself. Many are given platforms but lose presence. You are being given presence first. Presence with God. Presence in discernment. Presence in truth. Now pause and receive this activation with intention. Type "I walk in alignment" in the comments if this message is confirming what God is doing within you. Blessing code 8421 has just been released over your integrity, focus, and spiritual authority. I am speaking to you directly, because if this word is nourishing your spirit, it is meant to nourish others through you. When you release support through super thanks, channel membership, or PayPal using the link in the description, you are not funding content, you are fueling light. God says, as you sow into my word, I pour oil on your obedience. Your giving becomes seed in fertile soil, producing harvest in lives you may never see but heaven records. This is a prophetic moment to act, not hesitate. I bless every supporter now. May your generosity return as clarity, protection, and divine provision. Obey the prompting. Release the seed. Let heaven move through your yes. Beloved one, remain anchored here, because Archangel Michael is now drawing your attention to a reality that becomes clear only after deep alignment has taken root. This is the stage where discernment turns inward, and heaven begins to adjust not just what you do, but how you see. Many think transformation is about external change, but true elevation begins when perception is purified. Archangel Michael says you are starting to see situations for what they are, not for what you hoped they would be. Illusions are losing their power. Emotional fog is lifting. You are no longer interpreting life through unmet expectations or old wounds, but through clarity shaped by truth. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. You may notice that you no longer react as quickly as before. Where you once felt compelled to respond, defend, or explain, you now pause. That pause is wisdom. It gives heaven space to guide your response instead of your emotions leading the way. Silence is becoming a tool, not a weakness. This is also a phase where spiritual boundaries become non-negotiable. You are learning that not every invitation deserves access to your energy. Not every problem requires your intervention. Not every opinion needs your attention. This discernment is not distance, it is stewardship. You are protecting what God is building within you. Archangel Michael reveals that some relationships may now feel out of alignment without obvious conflict. There is no argument, no betrayal, no dramatic ending, just a quiet awareness that certain connections no longer nourish your spirit. This is not loss. This is graduation. You are not abandoning anyone. You are honoring the season that shaped you and stepping into the one that will sustain you. Do not allow guilt to pull you backward. Growth often requires release without resentment. You can bless what you leave without carrying it forward. Heaven honors clean transitions. This stage may also bring moments of deep introspection. You may find yourself reflecting on past decisions, paths not taken, words spoken or withheld. Do not confuse reflection with regret. Reflection is a tool for wisdom when it is not mixed with shame. God does not revisit your past to accuse you. He revisits it to show you how far you have come. Archangel Michael says you are now capable of handling truth without collapsing under it. That is why deeper revelation is arriving. You are strong enough to see clearly without being overwhelmed. This strength was built through obedience, consistency, and surrender, not overnight, but intentionally. There is also an increase in spiritual sensitivity during this time. You may sense atmospheres more strongly. Certain environments may feel heavy or unsettling. Others may feel life-giving and peaceful. This sensitivity is not meant to make you fearful. It is meant to guide your choices. Pay attention to where your spirit feels settled. That is often where alignment lies. Heaven is also teaching you restraint and judgment. As clarity increases, it becomes easier to see flaws in systems, in people, even in yourself. But wisdom does not rush to criticize. Wisdom discerns what to confront, what to pray over, and what to release. You are being trained to respond with authority and compassion. Archangel Michael warns gently against spiritual pride at this stage. Awareness can easily turn into comparison if humility is not maintained. Remember this: clarity is a gift, not a badge. You did not earn it, you received it through obedience. Gratitude keeps clarity pure. You may also feel a growing sense of purpose that is not yet fully defined. It is more like a direction than a destination. That is intentional. God often reveals purpose progressively to prevent fear from interfering. If you saw the full scope now, you might hesitate. So heaven reveals just enough to keep you moving. This is where trust deepens. You are learning to walk without needing to know every step ahead. Faith is no longer theoretical. It is practiced daily through small choices, quiet obedience, and consistent alignment. Archangel Michael says this is also a season of internal authority. You are no longer easily swayed by opinions, trends, or pressure. You listen, but you are not pulled. You consider, but you are not controlled. This steadiness is rare, and it is valuable. Let yourself rest into this strength. You do not need to rush into the next phase. What is coming will arrive at the right time. For now, remain attentive, grounded, and responsive. Because what heaven is preparing next is not just about you anymore. It is about how what you carry begins to touch others in ways you did not expect. And that unveiling is closer than you think. My beloved child, stay deeply attentive now, because Archangel Michael is speaking about a transition that many never recognize until it has already begun. This is the stage where alignment turns into assignment. Up until now, heaven had been shaping you internally. From here forward, what had been formed within you begins to move outward, but not loudly, and not all at once. Archangel Michael says this is where responsibility increases quietly. You may not receive a formal announcement. There may be no dramatic sign. Instead, you will notice that people begin to rely on your presence more than your words. Your stability becomes a refuge. Your discernment becomes a compass. You are no longer just being prepared. You are being positioned. This can feel heavy at times, not because it is wrong, but because weight has been added. Weight is a sign of trust. Heaven does not place weight on what it does not trust to endure. And you have proven, through consistency and obedience, that you can carry what others would drop. You may notice that your margin feels thinner. You cannot move as carelessly as before. Certain choices now carry greater consequences. This is not restriction. It is responsibility. When influence increases, precision becomes essential. Archangel Michael warns that carelessness in this phase can undo progress, not because God withdraws, but because authority demands stewardship. There is also a refining of motives happening again. Even good intentions are being purified. God is not only concerned with what you do, but why you do it. Actions fueled by ego exhaust you. Actions fueled by obedience sustain you. Heaven is guiding you toward sustainability. You may feel moments of tension between visibility and humility. Part of you may wonder if it is time to step forward more boldly, while another part senses the need to remain grounded. This tension is not confusion. It is balance being formed. God knows when to elevate and when to conceal. Your role is not to force exposure, but to remain ready. Archangel Michael says this is also where spiritual resistance can resurface in subtle ways. Not as fear but as fatigue. Not as doubt but as distraction. The enemy often attacks stamina when strength cannot be shaken. Guard your rest. Guard your focus. Rest is not retreat. It is maintenance. You are learning now that obedience does not mean overextension. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to choose stillness without guilt. Heaven is not impressed by burnout. He is honored by faithfulness. Let me speak to you directly in this moment. If this message is strengthening you, do not keep it passive. When you like this video, you align yourself with its assignment. When you comment, you declare agreement in the natural realm. When you share it, you extend the call to someone else who may be standing where you once stood. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to messages that sharpen discernment and sustain alignment. And step into the membership if you are ready to go deeper in this journey with others who understand this path. This is how we stay connected, grounded, and strengthened together. Archangel Michael says community matters more in this phase than ever before. Isolation weakens discernment. Alignment thrives in shared purpose. You are not meant to walk this out alone, even if your path is unique. There is also a reminder being released now. You do not need to rush fruit. Fruit appears when roots are strong. You have spent time underground for a reason. What grows next will be visible, but it will also be stable. Heaven values stability over speed. You may sense anticipation rising again. A quiet expectation. A feeling that something is approaching. That feeling is accurate, but do not chase it. Let it come to you. Chasing often leads to striving. Trust keeps you positioned. Archangel Michael says, watch how you speak about yourself in this season. Words carry weight now. Self-criticism weakens authority. Humility does not require self-dismissal. You can remain humble while honoring what God has done in you. Be mindful also of comparison. Others may seem to move faster or gain attention more quickly. That does not mean they are ahead. Pace does not equal depth. Heaven measures differently. You are being measured by faithfulness, not visibility. Hold steady here. Do not drift. Do not disengage. This is a pivotal stretch, and what you understand now will determine how you carry what comes next. Stay with this unfolding, because what is about to be revealed next explains why God trusted you with silence, patience, and preparation in the first place. You will want to hear this clearly before the next door opens. Beloved one, remain still in your spirit, because Archangel Michael is now revealing the reason behind the long preparation, the quiet seasons, and the moments when heaven felt distant but intentional. This is where understanding replaces questioning, Not all at once, but enough for your spirit to rest without needing explanations for everything. Archangel Michael says God does not prepare people for moments, He prepares them for impact. And impact requires depth. If you had received this assignment earlier, it might have impressed others but crushed you internally. What you are stepping into now would have overwhelmed the version of you from before. That version needed refining, strengthening, and stabilizing. This is why certain prayers were delayed. Not denied, delayed. God was protecting you from answers that would have arrived before you were able to carry their weight. Timing was mercy. Silence was strategy. Waiting was training. You are now beginning to understand that God's trust is not casual. He does not place responsibility on unstable foundations. He does not release authority where identity is still fragile. Everything you endured was shaping your capacity, not testing your worth. Archangel Michael says this is the season where you stop asking, "Why did it take so long?" and start realizing it took exactly as long as it needed to. There is peace in that realization. Peace that does not depend on circumstances but on perspective. You may now see past disappointments differently. What once felt like rejection now looks like redirection. What felt like loss now appears as protection. Even mistakes have been redeemed, not erased, but repurposed. Heaven wastes nothing that is surrendered. This understanding does not come from information. It comes from maturity, and maturity cannot be rushed. It is earned through obedience, humility, and endurance. You stayed when it would have been easier to leave. You listened when it would have been easier to ignore. That matters. Archangel Michael reveals that your discernment is now strong enough to recognize open doors without forcing them. You no longer need to push. What is for you will recognize you. This is a sign of alignment. Striving is decreasing because trust has increased. There is also a release of self-blame happening now. You are no longer punishing yourself for not knowing what you know now. Wisdom does not shame the past. It honors growth. The version of you that survived confusion deserves grace, not judgment. You may notice a growing compassion for others who are still in seasons you have passed through. Not pity, compassion. You remember the weight of not understanding. This compassion is important. It will keep your authority tender, not harsh. Archangel Michael says the next phase of your journey will require empathy as much as discernment. You will encounter people who are resistant, fearful, or hesitant, not because they are disobedient, but because they are unready. You will know how to walk with them without carrying them. This is also where leadership begins to form naturally, not through position, but through presence. Others will sense safety around you, not because you have all the answers, but because you know how to listen. Listening is rare. Listening is powerful. You are also being taught restraint in revelation. Not everyone needs to know everything you see or understand. Wisdom knows what to share and what to guard. Mystery is not deception. It is protection. What God entrusts privately must be stewarded carefully. Archangel Michael warns gently here. Do not rush to label your assignment. Labels can limit movement. God will define it as it unfolds. Your role is to remain obedient, available, and responsive. You may feel a sense of completion around certain internal struggles. Not perfection, but closure. Old fears no longer dominate. Old questions no longer control your peace. That does not mean challenges will disappear. It means they will no longer define you. Heaven is pleased with your posture. You are no longer asking God to prove Himself. You are walking with Him. That relationship shift changes everything. And now, pay attention to your inner prompts. They will become more specific, more precise. Small instructions will carry greater importance. Do not dismiss them. What feels minor may be strategic. Archangel Michael says this is the calm before a significant unveiling. Not chaotic, not overwhelming, but purposeful. What comes next will make sense of everything that came before. Stay grounded. Stay grateful. Stay obedient. Because the final revelation will not be about what you are called to do, but about who you have become. And that is where the true testimony lies. My beloved child, remain here with reverence, because Archangel Michael is now releasing the final unveiling, one that brings everything into alignment, clarity, and completion. This is not an ending in the natural sense. It is a sealing, a confirmation, a divine acknowledgement that what heaven initiated has been faithfully carried through your obedience. Archangel Michael says the greatest transformation was never about what you would do. It was about who you would become while listening to God's call. Heaven was not rushing you toward a task. It was shaping you into a vessel that could hold truth without distortion, authority without pride, and responsibility without fear. Look back now and notice how different you are. Not louder, not more dramatic, but steadier. You no longer panic when answers delay. You no longer crumble when silence appears. You no longer chase validation to confirm worth. These changes did not happen overnight, and that is why they will last. Archangel Michael reveals that heaven is satisfied, not because you were perfect, but because you were responsive. You adjusted when corrected. You paused when instructed. You waited when told to wait. And you moved when God finally said move. That responsiveness is rare, and heaven honors it deeply. There is something else being released now, spiritual closure. Cycles that overstayed their purpose are ending cleanly. Confusion that lingered without explanation is dissolving. You do not need to revisit old questions anymore. What you needed to know has already been settled within you. This is also the moment where God restores your confidence, not the loud confidence of ego, but the quiet confidence of identity. You know who you are even when circumstances fluctuate. You know whose voice you follow, even when other voices compete. That certainty is your anchor. Archangel Michael says heaven is now entrusting you with stewardship over peace. Not just your own, but peace that affects others. People will feel calmer around you. Situations will de-escalate when you arrive. This is not accidental. Peace is a sign of authority that hath been aligned, not forced. You may still face challenges, but they will no longer shake your foundation. They will reveal your growth. What once overwhelmed you will now be managed with wisdom. What once intimidated you will now be approached with discernment. This is fruit. There is also a reminder here: never forget how God led you when clarity was scarce. That memory will keep you compassionate. It will keep you grounded. It will keep you obedient when future doors open more quickly. Archangel Michael wants you to understand this clearly. Heaven's voice is not going silent. It is becoming familiar. You have learned how to listen without fear, how to respond without delay, and how to trust without needing proof every time. That is maturity. As this message completes its assignment, let it settle deeply. You were called. You responded. You aligned. And now, you stand ready, not anxious, not striving, but positioned. Receive this final ritual with intention and faith. Type "I walk with heaven" in the comments if you receive this sealing over your life. Blessing code 9914 has now been activated over your obedience, clarity, and future steps. I am speaking to you directly. as one who has walked through this message with an open heart. What God has done in you through this word is meant to reach far beyond you. When you release support through Super Thanks, become a channel member, or give through PayPal using the link in the description, you are answering heaven's call to keep this voice alive for others who are still waiting to hear God clearly. The Lord says, "As you sow into my word, I establish your steps and multiply your harvest." This is not charity. It is obedience in motion. I bless every seed sown now. May it return as protection, provision, and divine alignment. Do not delay this response. Act with faith. Support the mission. And watch how heaven continues to move with you from this moment forward.